So yeah, I'm Andrea Crooms, the director of the Department of the Environment. Happy International Women's Day to all the women who are here today and the men who came from women and support women in their lives. So, and then the next question was around water. So stormwater management handles largely clean water. So our sustainability division and our stormwater division work together on water. So I put this in stormwater management, but it's actually kind of both of our divisions. So what is DOE's responsibility in the larger water space? So our job more than anything else is to meet the county's regulatory requirements. So DOE is an agency more than anything else. Our job is to keep the county out of trouble in terms of environmental requirements. So there is an environmental requirement that says that the water that comes out of the county has to be clean to get to the Chesapeake Bay, right? And over time, the responsibility for how clean that has to be ramps up. So we have less and less pollution in the water. And that is DOE's big responsibility. So when you see we're spending like $150 million, it's not on flooding. It is on clean water. And those are two different things, and they work in two different ways. That said, one of the things that the county executive has asked us to do is to try to figure out how we can do both, right? Like, how can we do what projects that clean the water, but also reduce flooding? We also have responsibility for flooding, but it's very specific. It is when a residential structure is at risk of substantial damage or complete loss from flooding / stormwater. And so we also deal with the policy around, so we deal with all the residential complaints. If you have a flooding issue, if you have a standing water issue, if you should call 311 every time you have the issue. I know that sounds crazy. You're like, why am I reporting this, 6 times in the spring? You're reporting it because then I can align the data on what water fell with what's happening to you. That is really important data that I don't have consistently right now. So if you're telling me, Tuesday, April 18th, my yard was completely saturated. I couldn't walk out my front door. It's ridiculous, blah, 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 I can look at Tuesday, April 18th, what happened? How much water was that? Is that a 10-year storm? Is that a 5-year storm? Is that a 20-year storm? Is that a 100-year storm? So that I can start to pull together these pieces of the hydrology. At the same time, we're doing all these foundational studies. We're doing our nuisance flooding planning, and we're doing these studies of all of the watersheds. The first watershed we did was Henson Creek, which is in South County. The second one we're actually doing is Piscataway. We're doing all the Central County watersheds, and then we're going to get to the ones on the edges that are a little bit harder. So we're doing an evaluation of all of those. And the evaluation really looks at, okay, well, how has the world changed since the last time we did this in the 90s? And we all know Prince George's County in the 90s and Prince George's County now are two completely different existing things, right? And so we're working on all of that. But like I said, just like I said about the dumping, 311 is your friend. The more data that I have, the more effective I can be. And the way that one of the ways that I get data is from residents' experience. So please, 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 report it. And if you are comfortable using the app, use the app so you can send a photo saying like, here's the standing water, here's the water rushing through my, whatever the situation is, that we can really understand it. And we do respond to residential drainage complaints. So if you ask, we're going to come out and look at it, right? But we're probably not going to be there while it's still raining, right? So we do come out and figure out what's going on. And then we rank all of these issues based upon those criteria of the ones that we deal with first are the ones that are a risk of significant damage or total loss to a residence. But we're working on a lot more, we're working on a lot more flooding projects. We're trying to bring in a lot more money from, all of this federal money that's out there so that we can expand more into the flooding area. Because at this point, we're using a lot of our resources just to maintain this baseline requirement. Among other things, some past leadership administrations chose not to comply. And now we have to make up for what we didn't do before, and we have to do it now. But we're almost caught up. Like, we are working on being caught up. By the end of calendar year 24, we will be caught up, which means that we will only have to do what we have to do now and going forward. And we've actually caught up over the course of this administration for the failure of administrations in the past, which is pretty cool. But so we're working on it. And then we would have more resources to put towards flooding because we're not trying to do 2 gigantic things at once to catch up and be on time. So we're also looking at what that trajectory looks like in terms of the resources that are available through the Stormwater Fund. So there's these are just slides that I thought you might find useful to understand who does what in terms of water. So I figured I'd send these to you and you would have them, and that would be kind of a nice thing to have. Talked about the watershed studies. I'm not going to go into like pluvial flooding because we don't have all day. Process of, this again, the process of how this works. So you guys have it in writing. These are the current flood control projects. We have a lot more slated actually for the next year because we have some money coming in, and because again, we've been trying to figure out how to do both. So in South County, we've got a number of ongoing projects. Most of them are in design. They're not in construction, but many of them will move into construction over the next year or two. So solutions for homeowners. We do have, I talked about basically you make a drainage complaint and we'll help you figure out what solutions there may be. Rain gardens sometimes can help with small wet areas. We've got the rain check rebate. The rain check rebate is now a cost share. So hopefully rolling out this summer. It's been a little slower than I would have liked. We can actually do the work for you and you don't have to put the money forward first. You can get it on the back end to do the rain check rebate. So that's a little bit of a change, but basically call us if there's a problem and we'll help you figure out what solutions are. And then we are updating the homeowner guide. I find this so charming in 80s, like this is such a cute drawing, but we are updating the homeowner guide for like more solutions, like understanding so that, if you've got small problems that are really about your property, that are not about larger things the county should be dealing with, that you are educated so you can have a conversation with a contractor, so that you feel like you are armed to have that conversation and don't feel like you're just going to get bamboozled. And some of the things are DIY things. Grading away from your house is actually something you can do with mulch and dirt in a weekend. If you are physically able to do so, so we're going to put everything in there. It's going to be updated, a lot more information, a lot more user-friendly. And our goal is to get that published by the end of the fiscal year. So hopefully we'll have that out in June or July.